Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Well, today we're going to make steak alla Patsy. It's from Patsy's restaurant in New York City, a place where Frank Sinatra used to hang out after he'd go to Jilly's, or before he'd go to Jilly's, he'd go there and he would have dinner upstairs in a private dining room, and they would always obviously make room for the chairman of the board. So that was his favorite restaurant when he came to New York. We're going to make his Patsy's. Patsy, believe it or not, was an older gentleman that used to masquerade as the busboy because he wanted everybody in his restaurant to enjoy themselves. So he made sure that he was there picking up plates and doing everything that was necessary like a real owner should. Nobody would ever suspect that he was the actual owner of the restaurant. Anyway, it's still there today. You should go check it out. We're going to make that steak a la Patsy, and we're going to change a couple of things around with regard to procedures to make them a little bit more classic. But other than that, let's not waste any more time. Share with your friends. Sharing is caring if you have any friends, and leave a comment down below if you have a second. Without any further ado, let's get into the kitchen and make steak a la Patsy. All right, let's get started. For our steak, we're definitely going to need some steak. These are 2 sirloin steaks. They're not that big. They're not small. They're about medium size. We'll need some 100% California extra virgin olive oil. We're going to use an onion. We're going to use some scallions. We're going to use some basil. We're going to use some bacon, some white wine, and chicken stock as well. So what we first need to do is to cut up our bacon into small pieces. We're going to slice the onion. We're going to slice up our scallions, chop our basil, and I will be back. All right, let's get started first with our steaks. These are pretty clean. They haven't really, they've done a pretty good job. And this one's going to be okay. There's no real sinews or anything like that to get rid of. But this one, these little bits here, need to be removed. And the reason why is because if we leave this here, what will end up happening, instead of the steak staying this way, it will curl up. So all of these little sinews, for example, right here, that needs to go. It's not really a big deal. You don't have to do this. I'm just doing this because I can, to illustrate a reason why. And again, this is going to be just fine. We don't need to trim off anything here. And we're going to salt these. And I'm using Maldon salt, so it looks like more than it really is. Just a little bit of salt. And we'll let them hang out here while we make the sauce. And we're going to cook these last. All right, we'll be back. All right, I've also gone ahead and sliced our onion. I slice from pole to pole so they'll retain their integrity and not disintegrate. These are our scallions. I cut them on the bias because I think that this looks really appealing and nice. We've chopped up our bacon. I take the pieces, put them in the freezer so they can firm up. These slice them into strips and then into cubes. And of course, this is our basil. I've chopped it up. You can tell this is an American Italian recipe because of the chopped basil. In Italy, they wouldn't chop the basil. So it's time to go to the stove. We're going to render our bacon, make these crispy, and kind of get rid of a lot of that fat because we want the bacon and the smoky flavor when we pour the sauce over the steaks. All right, we'll be back. All right, we have a non-stick pan. This is the same one I use for eggs, believe it or not. And we're going to put the bacon inside of there, and we're going to render this and make it crispy. I'm going to do it on a low heat or a medium heat, and of course the non-stick pan helps that along as well. I'll be back when they are brown and we can remove them from the pan. All right, while our bacon is rendering, I have it on the back burner. I put another pan on the flame. We're going to add a little bit of olive oil. As always, I'm a little bit generous with olive oil, and we are going to slowly caramelize our onions. Okay, I'll be back when these start to fry up and get a little bit of color and caramelization. All right, as you can see, these onions are starting to get a little bit of color, which is exactly what we want. And I'm going to tilt this back So you can see that our bacon on the back burner is slowly crisping up. In fact, it's going to be ready in just a couple of minutes, and we will drain that on some paper towels. Right now, let's turn our attention back to these onions. And I'm going to add in the white wine. And we're going to let that reduce down. This is a procedural change from the actual recipe for steak a la Patsy, by virtue of the fact that this is more of a classical way of doing it, as opposed to just throwing everything in there and letting it reduce down. All right? This is a much better technique, essentially, than what you're going to find they tell you to do. So we'll come back when this is reduced down and our bacon is crisped up. All right, you can see that our bacon is now crisped up, and we're just going to take it and drain it on these towels. We'll reserve it onto the side for a little bit later. All right, as you can tell, the wine has reduced down and evaporated. We're now going to add in our scallions, our basil. Going to keep some basil for a little bit later to put on top. Our chicken stock goes in, and our reserved bacon that has drained. That goes in there as well. These all get mixed up, and we're going to let that reduce down until there's still some liquid in there, but not a lot, because this is going to go over the steaks. This should take about 2 or 3 minutes. Look at the colors. Look how beautiful that is. Huh? That's gorgeous. With all the way the scallions are cut, and the bacon, and the onions, this is going to be delicious. We'll adjust the seasoning in a little while when we're ready to come off the heat. All right, you can see that our sauce has been cooking down, and it's perfect. So we're going to take it off the heat, put it off to the side, and then concentrate on cooking our steaks. All right, now all along I've had this cast iron skillet on the stove. It's been on very, very low heat, and the reason for that is because I want this to heat up evenly. So I put it on very low heat. It's been going for about 10, 12 minutes now, and we're going to turn up the heat to give it full power and get it screaming hot. And the reason for that is because I want these steaks to get a nice crust on the outside. They're not that thick, and so by the time both sides are cooked and have a crust on them, they'll be definitely done. I like my meat medium rare. You cook obviously to your own doneness level. Now, put a little olive oil in here, and we are going to wait until that oil is smoking hot. I'll be back when that happens. All right, as you can tell, that is very, very hot. That is literally, it doesn't get hotter than that. We'll put these steaks in. And we'll press them down so that all of the meat ends up touching. I put them apart from one another because of the way the burner is, and we also don't want this area to get cold, because as soon as that meat hits the pan, the temperature goes way down. So we're going to leave them alone and only turn them once. I'll be back. Okay, they've been on for a couple of minutes, and now if we turn them over, you see they have formed a nice crust. And we'll continue to do the same thing on this side. We're going to leave them and not touch them. Again, I'll be back. All right, I believe they have formed a crust on this side. Look at that, very nice. We'll now take them out, put them on a plate, and we're going to let them rest for 5 minutes. It's important that you let the meat rest so that the juices can be reabsorbed by the meat and so it doesn't dry out. If we were to cut them now, everything would fall out. So I'll be back. Okay, our steaks have been resting, tented, and you can see that because they've rested, there's a minimal loss in juiciness. That's the key. If we were to have cut them open, juice would have been everywhere. So now let's plate it up and see if it's any good. Hello, my Italian food fanatics. Well, you saw me plate it up. You saw me put the sauce on the plate, then the meat, then the sauce on top again. Here it is, steak alla Patsy. Steak alla Patsy. So we'll see. It's from a famous New York Italian restaurant that Frank Sinatra used to go to. Look, perfectly done on the inside. How sweet it is. I tell you what, the meat itself is tender. Sirloin is nice. It's not overcooked. It's actually perfect. It's a medium rare. The bacon and onion, of course, these two go hand in hand. There's the basil, of course, is there. And of course, the chicken stock and the wine you can taste in there. It's pretty simple, but boy, is this delicious. They really had something. The Italian Americans that came here from in the early part of the 1900s, they really knew how to do things, and especially when they made enough money to afford meat and they mixed it with the vegetables the right way. It's just phenomenal. You got to try this. This is very, very good. Oh, before I forget, please thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell button so you know when I release a new video. Share with your friends. If you have friends, sharing is caring. And leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. I've changed the recipe around, as I mentioned. If you've stayed around through the process of reducing the wine, it's more proper in a sense. And then we reduced the chicken stock in there so that all the flavors can meld. And this is also a bacon that has not been cured. Okay, if you can, please find uncured bacon. It's more volatile. You have to use it up a lot sooner. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's better for your health. Very good, but very American Italian, as opposed to Italian. I'm going to eat the rest of this, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for watching. If I've inspired you to make something, you've made something off of my channel, please contact me on social media on Instagram, at Chef Argenti. Send me your name, send me the pictures, and I'm happy to feature you and your dish on a future episode of Italian Food Fanatics. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a great day. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.